Right. The Women's Six Nations. Now, I've been a fan of a women's game for a long time, but I have an issue with it, and that's the Women's Six Nations. Like, for me, it's an alright tournament, but it really does have its problems, doesn't it? Like, from from one issue to the next, but nevertheless, let's get straight into it. Well, since five became six in the year 2000, when Spain used to be a part of it up until 2007, when when Italy joined and they replaced Spain, we've seen England and France dominate the tournament, winning it year in, year out, with the exceptions of Ireland, who won it in 2013 and 2015. And it could be fairly argued that the reason why Ireland won the tournaments those year what was because England were putting their eggs in a sevens basket. Because in 2013, England were preparing for the following year's Commonwealth Games, and in 2015, they were preparing for the following year's Olympics, which saw the debut of rugby. But now with centralised contracts, England no longer have to do that. And with France, they've been successful too. You know, year in, year out, England and France basically wipe the floor with the competition. I mean, and the rest, they can only try as best. But ultimately, England and France's domination is something organisers have taken note of. And it's one of the reasons why they brought England v France as the last fixture. So that creates a cup final, which is something to look forward to come the end of a tournament. Like, the tournament wouldn't really make much sense if England v France was the first or third fixture, because then you already know who's won the Six Nations then, and that'll be pretty boring, which lacks excitement. Like, sometimes I question why England and France are in that tournament, but I get that organisers want to push women's rugby, but in a largely uncompetitive field, some viewers are left scratching their heads as thinking, yeah, we know England and France are going to do well, but what about the rest? Like, some of the Six Nations sides have to qualify for Rugby World Cups, which isn't commonplace in the men's tournament, because as we see at the men's Rugby World Cup, each of the Six Nations sides qualify for the following tournament via top three finishes in each of their pools. But that's not the case in the women's. But I'll get onto the women's Rugby World Cup much later. When it comes to women's rugby, I believe it's best that women's rugby has its own tournament rather than trying to follow the men's blueprint. And sticking with women's rugby having their own tournament, I like what they've done with that WXV thing, which teams of similar strengths are facing each other. Like, that and the Rugby World Cup should be commonplace. Like, what fans want to see is sides of similar strength facing each other year in, year out, or every other year, rather than what we currently see at the Women's Six Nations, with England and France dominating. Because to be honest, I don't enjoy that. Right. Sticking with competitive rugby, I recall the Women's Super Series, which took place between 2015 and 2019, with exclusion of 2018, where it was England, New Zealand, France, Canada, and another team that I can't remember. Now, whatever happens to that tournament? Like, I thought that, hey, here's a great women's tournament that everybody would want to watch because it has competition, but that didn't happen since 2019 for whatever reason. Like, could somebody in the comments please tell me why that tournament didn't happen? Now, in rugby, you want to see results on a knife edge. You want to go into a game discussing which side is going to win, rather than discussing how many points will England and France beat say Scotland or Italy by. Like it's a problem with women's rugby, and for me, it's why women's rugby shouldn't follow the blueprint of men's rugby, but rather do its own thing. And I recall for a while, I think it was 4 years ago, where the women's Six Nations had a different format, so that with like two pools of three. Now, I don't know why they didn't keep that format. Like that was a format which was entirely different to what we saw in the men's Six Nations. Like, imagine if you had like England, Ireland, Wales in one pool, and France, Italy, Scotland in another. Like, that would have been great to have every year. Like, I don't know why they used that format just once, but what are your thoughts on that? Like, should the Women's Six Nations change its format for the better? Would it be better if the Women's Six Nations did have a better format? I recall a while ago, ex-England hockey star Sam Quek was discussing the picture of rugby, though boxing, which used a car analogy to describe what was going on in boxing, which I'll put out for you here. Now, that tweet could also be said of the picture of women's rugby on an international scale. Like, the Women's Six Nations is basically England and France are the best cars, like, say, a Porsche or a Ferrari, and then you have a lot of Vauxhalls and BMWs as the competition, and then you're saying, look how great England and France are. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's like imagine if I was to enter a race against, I don't know, Usain Bolt or whatever. Like, Usain Bolt is like so much faster than I am. Like, he'd be over like 10 seconds before I even finish the race. Like, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like, what are your thoughts on the Women's Six Nations? How do you solve a problem like the Women's Six Nations? And how would you go about making the tournament better? Because for me, at current, it's not a great tournament like the men's tournament is. Like, what would you do? Like, would you have like promotion relegation? In fact, promotion relegation would be a terrible idea in a Six Nations, because women's rugby isn't even close to where men's rugby is at to even have relegation from the Six Nations. Like, the Women's Six Nations is struggling enough in terms of competition, but if you were to have the likes of Georgia and Romania potentially having a shot to play in the Women's Six Nations, it would just be even worse. So relegation would be a bad idea. But hey, that's just my 2 cents. What are your thoughts on the Women's Six Nations, and how would you make the tournament better?